We are going to go over margins and padding on today's Nugget of Know. Okay, so I'm sitting here. I have gone to CodePen. I'm going to put this link in the show notes. I do recommend that if you're learning how to do front-end development, that you hop into CodePen, create your own account, and you can even fork this, which would mean that a copy of this will actually be pasted right into your own account so you can play with it and manipulate it however you see fit. So go ahead and jump into CodePen, follow along if you want. You can watch this if you'd like and just download the link later. So let's take a look. We're going to first go over how padding works, because it goes content in the box model, content, padding, border, and then margin on the very outside. So we're going to work our way from the inside out. So our content is this H1 tag with sentence number 1. We have a class of first, a class of second, third, fourth, and fifth. So whatever I do to this class is going to affect this sentence. We are going to start with a background color of blue. I've changed the font to white. And now let's add some padding. Now what padding does is it pushes out from the top of the content to the bottom of the border. So it expands that space on the top, left, right, and bottom. So whatever number I put in here is how far I want that to expand. So let's start with a padding all around. If I just use one number, use all 4 sides to that number. We're going to say 25 pixels. So there you can see top, bottom, left, and right is all expanded. And if I do an inspect element on this, and I won't do this for all of them, but I want to start. I go in, and here's this first class. You can see that the content section has stayed the same size. But from the top of that section to the border, it pushed up and out and down. So that's how the padding works. We can change this. Let's say you don't want, and close out this inspect element, you don't want the padding on the top, bottom, left, and right to all be the same number. You have different sizes in mind. You can do that all on the same line. So the first number is always going to be the top. The second number will be right. Third number will be bottom. And fourth number will be left. Consider it like a clock. Top, right, bottom, left. So top number will be 25. The right number we can say is 10 pixels. The bottom number we can say is 40 pixels. And the left can be 50 pixels. Now you can see how this has changed. It's a lot further down here. It's a lot more to the side. You can't really see it on the right because there's not enough content. But if you look, let me close this out just a bit. So I'll change the view. And we'll actually change the view here. There we go. Now if I go to this H1 tag, you can see, and the 10 pixels probably aren't enough. Let's make it 60 pixels. See how it pushed in 60 pixels onto the right? Now the reason why you don't see that is because there's not enough content for it to take effect, which is why it's tough. You actually look at this inspector and you can see how that's actually taken effect. Change my view back. And so now let's go ahead and check out some margins. So margin, now remember margin is outside of the border. So anything from the top of the border up is going to be your margin, so, or out, all around. So let's do a margin of 50 pixels and see what happens. So you can see there, it's all kind of pushed out. It's saying, I don't want anything around me to touch within 50 pixels. I need 50 pixels of personal space. Now, we can do this again and inspect element. I lost it. There we go. You can inspect element, and all that yellow around there, that's our margin. So it's telling us, don't touch us anywhere around here. And again, you can do the same thing as you did with the padding in regards to the clock. So let's say 50 pixels on the top. We don't want anybody to touch us up there. 25 pixels on the right. 30 pixels on the bottom. And 70 pixels on the left. So now you can see it kind of shifts and adjusts accordingly. Lost my mouse. So now with sentence number 2, let's take another look at how we can type out padding and margins. A lot of times you'll find that your top and bottom, you might not want any margin, or the top and bottom only needs 10 pixels of margin, or they're going to be the same no matter what. So let's start back with padding. And let's say we want our top and bottom to be the same number. We'll say 30 pixels. And right now it's taking effect all around. But if we add one more number, the browser knows to make that second number the left and right. So if we say 50 pixels, now we have a larger padding on the left and right than we do the top and bottom. And I can make that even more significant here by changing that to 20, and you can see it, boom, pulls in a little bit. And you can do the same number with margin. So let's say 30 pixels top and bottom and 20 pixels left and right. And that's going to give us a different little margin here. And again, let's just make it a little more dramatic so you can tell the difference. So you see it, poof, it only pops the top and bottom. So this is going to use just 2 numbers, top and bottom, left and right. So now what if you wanted to use, the top is 1 number, the left and right is a number, but maybe you don't want any border or any bottom padding. You can actually use 3 numbers and the browser will know what's up. So let's say padding, and you can say the top will be 35 pixels. You want the left and right to be 50 pixels, but you want 0 on the bottom. It knows. It's a very smart little browser here. So we have 50 pixels or 35 pixels on the top, 50 on the left and right, and absolutely nothing on the bottom. And you can do the same thing. We can say 20 pixels for the top. We can say 45 pixels for the left and right, and maybe just maybe we want a lot for the bottom, 100 pixels for the bottom. So you can do 3 different numbers, and the browser knows exactly what you're talking about. Next thing I want to show you is you can change the denominations. You can mix and match. It's not always the best course of action, but it is an option to you. So let's do padding again, and let's start with the top and say we want the top padding to be 5%. We want the left and right to be 40 pixels. Or we want the right to be 40 pixels. We want the bottom, let's say we want the bottom to be 5 viewport height, and the left to be 3 pixels. Let's change it. 3 rem. Let's make it more dramatic again. There we go. So you can see we're using 4 different variations of denominations for the padding. And you can do the exact same thing for margin. And so let's say we want 40 pixels, 15 ems, 30% for the bottom, and let's say 100 view, no, 10 view width. So now you got this really goofy looking, but it works every time. So let me throw in my semicolon too. So you've got top, right, bottom, left. And if you wanted, you could even change that a little bit. There you go. We'll make it a little bit wider. So I'm going to modify this bottom one a little bit because it really doesn't need to be quite that high. We'll say 16%. And so now let's knock out this last one. I want to show you that you can actually specify, if you know you only have padding for the top, you can say padding top, and you can say 25 pixels. So now you have 25 pixels for the top. If you know that you have a padding bottom, you can say 20% or whatever. You can say 10 pixels. You can say whatever that is applicable to this specific tag. Make it work for you. And you can say padding left. Say 25 pixels. Padding right, 40 em. And there you go. So now we have 4 different padding settings, which is alleviated when you use the clock method, but you don't have to. You can type it all out if you're more comfortable with it. And once you get more comfortable, then you can go back to the clock method. And again, the same thing works out for the margin top. We'll say 20 pixels. Margin bottom, 200 pixels. Now we have this extra white space. You can say, oops, margin left, 10 pixels, and margin right, 5 pixels. Now these can be in any order. It doesn't have to be top, bottom, left, right. It can be right, bottom, left, top. However it comes to you, however it works for you. I recommend trying to go in order of top, right, bottom, left, just so you can get in a good habit of that. But that is how this will work. And we've kind of gone over paddings and margins. Now you can see the different ways for these to be used out. I'm going to save this. I'm going to keep this. I'll put this link in the show notes for you, and you will be able to play with margins and padding all day long.